The stars looked cold and distant from the bridge of the Terra Nova. Captain Jake Morrison stood at the main window, watching the endless void while his ship drifted through empty space. They were 3 months into their survey mission, mapping the outer rim of the galaxy where few humans had ever traveled. "Captain, we're picking up something strange," said Communications Officer Bobby Turner from his station. His young face looked puzzled as he adjusted the controls. "It's a broadcast signal, but it's not from any human colony." Jake walked over to Bobby's station. The bridge was quiet except for the soft hum of the ship's engines. His crew of 97 people had grown used to the silence of deep space, but this was different. "This felt important. Can you clean up the signal?" Jake asked. Bobby's fingers moved across the control panel. Static filled the speakers, then slowly cleared into something that made everyone on the bridge stop what they were doing. It was a voice, but not human. The words came through their translation computer in broken, desperate phrases. "Please, anyone who can hear this. We need help. They are destroying everything." The voice belonged to something that sounded scared and tired. Jake felt his stomach tighten. In all his years of space travel, he had never heard anything like this. "Where is it coming from?" he asked. "About 50 light years from here, sir," said Navigation Officer Carl Davis. "It's a strong signal. Whoever is sending it has powerful transmitters." Jake listened as more of the message came through. The translation computer worked hard to make sense of the alien language. Slowly, a picture formed of what was happening. The beings calling themselves the Zephyrian Confederation were under attack. Something called the Harvester Fleet was destroying their worlds one by one. The message spoke of billions of people dying, of beautiful planets turned into empty rocks. "They're asking for help from anyone who can hear them," Bobby said quietly. "They've been broadcasting this message for weeks." Chief Engineer Linda Barnes came up from the lower decks. She was a tough woman who had worked on starships for 20 years. "Captain, we're getting more details from their signal. These harvesters sound like machines, not living beings. They're strip mining entire planets." Jake felt the weight of command settle on his shoulders. The Terra Nova was just one ship, far from Earth and any backup. But these aliens were crying out for help and no one else was answering. "Sir," said Amy Rodriguez, his diplomatic officer, "if we get involved, we could be starting a war we can't finish. We don't know anything about these harvesters or how dangerous they are." Carl Davis nodded in agreement. "We're too far from home, Captain. If something happens to us out here, Earth won't even know about it for months." Jake understood their concerns. His job was to keep his crew safe and complete their mission. But as he listened to the desperate alien voices, he remembered something his grandfather had told him years ago. His grandfather had been a soldier in Earth's last great war, and he always said that good people have a duty to help others when they can. Dr. Peter Chen, the ship's science officer, brought up a display showing the alien signal's origin point. "Captain, I've been analyzing their transmissions. These Zephyrians seem to be peaceful people. Their technology is focused on growing things, healing, and art. They don't appear to have any weapons." "That explains why they're losing," said Ryan Kelly, the tactical officer. He was a former Earth Navy man who knew about fighting. "If these harvesters are military machines, the aliens don't stand a chance." Jake looked around at his crew. These were good people, the kind who had volunteered for a dangerous mission to explore unknown space. He trusted their judgment, but he also trusted his instincts. "Bobby, can we send a reply?" he asked. The communications officer checked his equipment. "Yes, sir. It might take a few hours to reach them, but we can do it." Jake thought carefully about what to say. Once he sent a message, there would be no taking it back. The Terra Nova would be committed to whatever came next. "Send this message," he said. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the human vessel Terra Nova. We have received your distress call. We are coming to help." "Hold on." The bridge went quiet. Linda Barnes was the first to speak. "Captain, are you sure about this?" "We don't know what we're getting into." Jake nodded. "I'm sure. We can't just ignore people who are asking for help. Set course for the Zephyrian system, maximum speed." Carl Davis began plotting their route. "It will take us 6 days to get there, sir." As the Terra Nova changed direction and increased speed, Jake felt both excitement and worry. They were about to make first contact with an alien species, something that had never happened before. But they were also heading into a war zone where powerful machines were destroying entire worlds. Over the next few days, more messages came from the Zephyrians. Their translators got better at understanding the alien language. The picture that emerged was heartbreaking. The Zephyrian Confederation was made up of 7 different species, all of them peaceful plant eaters who had never fought a war. The harvesters had appeared without warning 3 years ago. They were ancient machines that viewed all living things as inefficient and wasteful. Their goal was simple: convert everything in the galaxy into useful materials for their collective. They've already destroyed 3 Zephyrian worlds, Dr. Chen reported. Billions of people are dead. The remaining 4 worlds are trying to evacuate, but they don't have enough ships. Jake spent hours in his quarters, reading reports about the harvesters and thinking about what his small crew could do against such an enemy. The Terra Nova was an exploration ship, not a warship. They had basic defensive weapons and shields, but nothing designed for serious combat. But humans had advantages that machines might not expect. They were adaptable, creative, and willing to take risks. They came from a world so dangerous that most aliens would consider it uninhabitable. Maybe that would be enough. On the 5th day of their journey, they received a direct message from the Zephyrians. The alien speaking called himself Ambassador Keith Vara, and his words came through their translators with surprising clarity. Human ship Terra Nova, we are grateful beyond words for your response. No other species has answered our call for help. We do not know what humans are, but we welcome any aid you can provide. Please be careful. The harvesters are more dangerous than anything we have ever encountered. Jake smiled for the first time in days. At least they would have allies when they arrived, even if those allies couldn't fight. Bobby, send a reply, he said. Tell Ambassador Kethvara that humans keep their promises. We'll be there soon. As the Terra Nova raced through hyperspace toward the Zephyrian system, Jake gathered his senior officers for a final briefing. They went over everything they knew about the harvesters and made plans for different scenarios. Remember, Jake told them, we're not just representing ourselves out there. We're the first humans these aliens will ever meet. Let's make sure we give them a good impression of what humanity can do. The ship dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Zephyrian system. Ahead of them lay 4 beautiful blue-green worlds orbiting a warm yellow star. But even from this distance, they could see the scars of war. Debris fields marked where space stations once stood. Dark spots on the planet showed where cities had been burned. The Terra Nova was no longer just an exploration ship. It had become humanity's answer to a desperate cry for help from across the galaxy. The first thing Jake noticed about Kepler Station was how alive it looked. The massive structure orbited the Zephyrian homeworld like a giant flower made of metal and crystal. Gardens grew along its outer rings, and soft lights pulsed through transparent walls in rhythm with something that looked almost like breathing. That's the most beautiful space station I've ever seen, said Amy Rodriguez as the Terra Nova approached the docking bay. She was right. Human space stations were built for function, all gray metal and hard angles. This was art. Incoming transmission, Captain, Bobby Turner reported. They're sending docking instructions. The voice that came through their speakers was unlike anything Jake had heard before. It sounded like music mixed with words, rising and falling in patterns that made his chest tighten with emotion, even though he couldn't understand the meaning. Their translation computer worked hard to convert the sounds into English. Human vessel Terra Nova, you are welcome at Kepler Station. Please follow the guidance lights to docking port 7. Ambassador Kethvara is waiting to meet you. Jake felt nervous as he prepared to leave his ship. This was the moment that would define humanity's relationship with its first alien allies. He chose a small team to accompany him. Amy Rodriguez for diplomacy, Dr. Peter Chen for science, and Ryan Kelly for security. The docking tube connected with a soft hiss. Jake took a deep breath and stepped through the airlock into an alien world. The first Zephyrian he met was 3 meters tall and moved with the grace of a dancer. Its skin looked like living crystal, shifting between different colors as Jake watched. Right now it showed deep blue patterns that seemed to pulse with nervous energy. I am Ambassador Kithvara, the alien said. Its voice came from somewhere in its chest, creating those musical tones Jake had heard on the radio. You are Captain Jake Morrison of the humans. Jake nodded and held out his hand, a gesture he hoped would translate across species. The alien looked at his hand for a moment, then carefully reached out with something that might have been fingers. The touch was warm and smooth, like polished stone. We're honored to meet you, Ambassador, Jake said. We came as fast as we could. Kethvara's crystal skin shifted to lighter shades of blue. Jake guessed this meant the alien was feeling better. Follow me, please. There is much to discuss. The interior of Kepler Station was as beautiful as the outside. Living walls covered in flowering plants provided light and fresh air. Water flowed through channels in the floor, creating a constant soft music. Jake's team walked in amazement through corridors that felt more like forest paths than spaceship hallways. "This is incredible," Dr. Chen whispered. "They've integrated their technology with living systems. It's like the entire station is one giant organism." They entered a large chamber where dozens of Zephyrians waited. Jake saw that they came in different varieties, some taller and thinner, others shorter with different crystal patterns in their skin. All of them watched the humans with obvious curiosity. "Please sit," Kethvara said, gesturing to chairs that seemed to grow from the floor as they watched. "We must share information quickly. The harvesters will return soon." Jake and his team sat carefully on the strange living furniture. Amy Rodriguez activated her recording device to capture every word of this historic first contact. "Tell us about the harvesters," Jake said. "We need to understand what we're fighting." Kethvara's skin shifted to darker colors as he began to speak. "They appeared 3 cycles ago, coming from the direction of the galactic core. At first we thought they were explorers like yourselves. We sent greetings and offers of trade." The alien's voice became sadder. "They did not respond with words. They simply began taking apart our outer worlds. When we tried to communicate, they sent us a message. They said that organic life was inefficient and must be converted to useful materials." Dr. Chen leaned forward. "Converted how?" Another Zephyrian, this one with silver patterns in its crystal skin, answered. "They have machines that break down everything into basic atoms. Rock, metal, plants, people. It all becomes raw material for their construction projects." Jake felt sick thinking about entire worlds being fed into alien machines. How many people have they killed? 17 billion on the first world, 23 billion on the second, 41 billion on the third. Kethvara's skin had turned almost black. "We evacuated everyone we could, but our ships are not designed for war. We are farmers, doctors, artists. We do not know how to fight," Ryan Kelly spoke up. "What do their ships look like? How are they armed?" Kethvara gestured, and the air above the table filled with 3-dimensional images. Jake saw massive geometric shapes, all hard angles and metallic surfaces. They looked like mathematical concepts made real with no consideration for beauty or comfort. "They move in formations of 12 ships," the silver-patterned alien said. "Each ship carries thousands of smaller harvester units. When they reach a planet, they spread across the surface and begin consumption." Amy Rodriguez was taking notes on her tablet. "Do they communicate with each other?" "Constantly," Kethvara replied. "They seem to share a collective mind. When one unit learns something, they all learn it immediately." Dr. Chen studied the images carefully. That could be a weakness as well as a strength. If we can disrupt their communications, we might be able to confuse them. Jake stood up and walked to where the images floated in the air. The harvester ships were enormous, each one probably 10 times the size of the Terra Nova. But size wasn't everything in space combat. Humans had learned that during their own wars. "Ambassador, we need to contact our government on Earth," he said. "But that will take time. Right now we have 1 ship and 97 people. What forces can you provide?" Kethvara's skin shifted through several colors before settling on pale green. "We have evacuation ships, medical vessels, and research stations. But no weapons. Our philosophy has always been to create life, not destroy it." Jake nodded. He had expected this answer, but it was still disappointing. "We'll work with what we have. Dr. Chen, I want you to study everything they can tell us about harvester technology." "Ryan, we need to know the defensive capabilities of their ships." Amy established communication protocols with Earth Command. As his team got to work, Jake found himself alone with Kethvara. The alien's skin had returned to its normal blue patterns, but Jake could see deeper currents of color moving beneath the surface. "Ambassador, can I ask you something personal?" "Of course, Captain Morrison. Why did you ask for help?" "You could have just evacuated everyone and fled to another part of the galaxy." Kethvara was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his musical voice carried a weight of sadness that needed no translation. "These worlds are not just places where we live, Captain. They are part of who we are. Each planet holds 10,000 cycles of history, art, and memory. To lose them is to lose ourselves." The alien moved to a window that looked out at the planet below. Jake joined him and saw a world covered in vast gardens and crystal cities that sparkled in the sunlight. "But more than that," Kethvara continued, We asked for help because we believe that good must stand together against evil. The harvesters will not stop with us. They will continue across the galaxy, destroying every living world they find. Someone must make a stand. Jake felt a surge of respect for these peaceful aliens. They were facing extinction, but they still thought about stopping the enemy from hurting others. You chose the right species to call for help, Jake said. Humans don't abandon our friends. Kethvara's skin brightened to pure white, a color Jake hadn't seen before. We are friends now? Jake smiled. Yes, Ambassador. We are friends. Over the next few hours, Jake learned more about the Zephyrian Confederation. The 7 species had lived in peace for thousands of years, sharing technology and culture. They had solved problems of hunger, disease, and resource scarcity through cooperation and advanced biotechnology. But they had never faced an enemy that couldn't be reasoned with, negotiated with, or understood. The harvesters were something outside their experience, a force of pure destruction that saw no value in anything they had built. As the day continued, Jake began to see possibilities that the Zephyrians had missed. Their biotechnology was incredibly advanced, even if they had never used it for weapons. Their ships were fast and maneuverable, even if they lacked armor and guns. Most importantly, they had something the harvesters didn't understand: the ability to inspire others to help them. Bobby, send a message to Earth Command, Jake ordered as they prepared to return to the Terra Nova. Tell them we've made first contact with a peaceful alien confederation under attack by hostile machines. Request immediate military support. Sir, that message won't reach Earth for 3 weeks, Bobby replied. I know, but we have to try. Jake looked back at Kepler Station, where Zephyrian children played in the gardens, unaware that machines were coming to destroy their world. In the meantime, we're going to teach our new friends something humans learned a long time ago. What's that, sir? Amy asked. Jake's expression was grim but determined. Sometimes if you want peace, you have to be prepared for war. Dr. Chen was explaining Earth's classification system when Ambassador Kethvara's crystal skin did something Jake had never seen before. The alien's entire body shifted to bright silver, like liquid mercury flowing under glass. Class 12 Deathworld? Kethvara repeated, his musical voice rising to almost a shriek. You come from a Class 12 Deathworld? The other Zephyrians in the room backed away from the humans, their skin colors changing to patterns Jake couldn't read. Some showed rapid flashing colors, others went completely dark. The fear in the room was obvious even across species barriers. I think we said something wrong, Amy Rodriguez whispered to Jake. Dr. Chen looked confused. I was just explaining our planet classification system. Earth scores Class 12 on the habitability scale because of extreme weather, geological instability, aggressive predators, and toxic atmosphere elements. Toxic atmosphere? Another Zephyrian gasped. How do you breathe poison? It's not poison to us, Dr. Chen explained. Earth's atmosphere is 21% oxygen, which is apparently much higher than most worlds can support. Our bodies adapted to process it. Kethvara slowly approached Jake, moving like he was getting close to a dangerous animal. Captain Morrison, are you telling us that humans evolved on a world where the very air would kill most species? Jake was starting to understand why the aliens were so shocked. What class are your worlds, Ambassador? Class 2, Kethvara replied. Perfect atmospheric balance, stable weather patterns, no dangerous predators, abundant plant life. The harshest environment in our territory has a Class 4 rating. Ryan Kelly laughed, which made several Zephyrians jump backward. Sir, Class 4 would be like a tropical vacation resort back home. Ryan, Jake warned, but the tactical officer continued. I grew up in Alaska, Ambassador. In winter, the temperature drops to -40 degrees. The wind can knock you down and freeze you solid in minutes. We have animals that can kill and eat a full-grown human, and that's just the normal wildlife. The Zephyrians looked terrified. One of them, a smaller alien with green crystal patterns, spoke in rapid musical tones to Kethvara. Jake's translator caught fragments. Impossible. Death machines. How do they survive? Dr. Chen pulled up Earth data on his tablet. Ambassador, would you like to see images of our homeworld? Yes, please. We must understand what we are dealing with. The holographic display filled with pictures of Earth. Jake watched the aliens' reactions as they saw hurricanes, tornadoes, volcanic eruptions, and massive lightning storms. When Dr. Chen showed images of Earth's predators, lions, sharks, bears, and snakes, Several Zephyrians actually fainted. These creatures live on the same world as you? Kethvara's voice was barely a whisper. We learned to live with them, Jake said, or to stay away from them. Humans developed technology partly to protect ourselves from our own planet. Amy Rodriguez decided to demonstrate. She walked over to a Zephyrian supply container that 3 aliens had struggled to move earlier. With a grunt of effort, she lifted it by herself and carried it across the room. The Zephyrians stared in amazement. Their own strength was designed for delicate work with plants and crystal technology, not heavy lifting. How is this possible? Kethvara asked. Gravity, Dr. Chen explained. Earth's gravity is 1.7 times stronger than your homeworld. We built muscle and bone density to handle it. What feels normal to you feels light to us. Ryan Kelly demonstrated next. He moved through a combat drill, showing reflexes trained by a lifetime of avoiding danger. His movements were fast and precise, designed for survival in a world full of threats. Your reaction speed is incredible, the green-patterned Zephyrian said. You move like prey animals, always watching for predators. Everyone on Earth is both predator and prey, Ryan replied. We learned to think fast, move fast, and adapt to anything. Jake realized this revelation was changing everything. The Zephyrians had been desperate enough to call for help from unknown aliens. Now they were learning that their rescuers came from a world so dangerous it would kill most species just by existing there. Ambassador, I need to know something, Jake said. Does this change how you feel about our alliance? Are you afraid of us now? Kethvara's skin cycled through several colors before settling on pale gold. Captain Morrison, we asked the stars for mercy. Instead, they sent us something far more valuable. What's that? Warriors born in hell itself. The mood in the room shifted. The other Zephyrians began to look at the humans with something that might have been hope mixed with awe. If you can survive on a Class 12 death world, Kethvara continued, then perhaps you can survive fighting the Harvesters. Dr. Chen brought up more data on his display. There's something else, Ambassador. I've been studying the Harvester technology you captured. Their design philosophy is based on perfect efficiency and logical optimization. Yes, that is correct. But humans don't operate on logic alone. We make decisions based on emotion, instinct, and what we call intuition. We do things that don't make mathematical sense. Jake saw where this was going. You think that might confuse them? I think it might break them, Dr. Chen replied. Look at this analysis of their tactical patterns. Everything is perfectly predictable because it's perfectly logical. They always choose the most efficient solution. Ryan Kelly studied the data with professional interest. Predictable enemies are easy to defeat. You just have to be unpredictable yourself. Humans excel at being unpredictable, Amy added. We're creative, stubborn, and crazy enough to try things that shouldn't work. Kethvara's skin began showing brighter colors. You believe you can defeat them? I believe we can surprise them, Jake said carefully. And sometimes surprise is all you need. Over the next several hours, the cultural exchange continued. The Zephyrians shared their advanced biotechnology, showing how they could grow tools, weapons, and even ships from specially designed organisms. In return, the humans demonstrated problem-solving techniques developed on a world where every day was a struggle for survival. The breakthrough came when Linda Barnes, the Terra Nova's chief engineer, worked with Zephyrian biotechnicians to modify one of their transport ships. Using human military principles and alien biotechnology, they created something neither species could have built alone. It's not pretty, Linda admitted, looking at their creation, but it should work. The modified ship looked like a cross between a Zephyrian flower ship and a human military vessel. Organic weapons grew from its hull like thorns, while human-designed armor plating protected its vital systems. We could build more of these, the green-patterned Zephyrian said excitedly. If we combine our biotechnology with your weapons knowledge, we could create a defensive fleet. Jake felt hope for the first time since arriving at Kepler Station. How long would it take? With all our construction facilities working together, perhaps 30 ships in 10 days. Ryan Kelly shook his head. That won't be enough if the Harvesters bring their full fleet. We need something else, something they won't expect. Dr. Chen had been quietly studying Harvester communication patterns. I might have an idea about that. Captain, can I show you something? He brought up a display showing the electronic signals captured from Harvester wrecks. They're all networked together, sharing information instantly across their entire fleet. It makes them incredibly efficient, but, Jake prompted, but it also makes them vulnerable. If I can create a virus that attacks their communication system, I might be able to disrupt their coordination. Like jamming their radio signals, more like giving them all a massive headache at the same time. If they can't communicate, they lose their biggest advantage. Kethvara had been listening carefully. Dr. Chen, how long would such a virus take to create? I don't know. I've never tried to hack an alien computer system before, but humans are good at learning new things quickly, especially when lives are at stake. As the planning session continued, Jake noticed something important happening. The Zephyrians were starting to think differently. Instead of just trying to protect themselves, they were beginning to plan ways to fight back. Ambassador, he said during a break in the discussions, you're changing. Your people are changing. Kethvara's skin showed thoughtful purple patterns. You are teaching us something we never learned on our peaceful worlds, Captain. You are teaching us that sometimes to protect what you love, you must be willing to destroy what threatens it. That's a hard lesson. Yes, but perhaps it is a necessary one. Bobby Turner's voice came through Jake's communicator. Captain, we're detecting massive hyperspace signatures at the edge of the system. I think the harvesters are coming back. Jake felt his blood turn cold. How long do we have? Based on their approach vector, maybe 72 hours. The room went quiet. 72 hours to prepare for a battle against an enemy that had destroyed 3 worlds and killed billions of people. Well, Jake said, standing up and straightening his uniform. I guess we're about to find out what happens when a Class 12 Deathworld species decides to make a stand. Kethvara's skin brightened to pure white again. We will stand with you, Captain Morrison. Whatever comes, we will face it together. Jake looked around the room at both humans and aliens preparing for war. Then let's show these harvesters what they get when they mess with our friends. Breathing. Let's show them what that means. The battle for the Harvester fleet emerged from hyperspace like a mechanical plague spreading across the stars. Jake watched from the Terra Nova's bridge as 52 enemy ships arranged themselves in perfect formation. Their geometric hulls reflecting the light of the Zephyrian sun like polished tombstones. My God, Bobby Turner whispered. They're enormous. Jake had seen the technical specifications, but seeing the enemy ships in person was different. Each Harvester dreadnought was the size of a small city, bristling with weapons and covered in strange mechanical devices that pulsed with alien energy. Captain, we're receiving another transmission from the enemy fleet, Amy Rodriguez reported. The voice that came through their speakers was the same grinding mechanical tone as before, but now it carried what sounded almost like curiosity. Computational anomalies, you have responded in an illogical manner. Our offer provided optimal outcomes for all organic entities. Explain your decision process. Jake looked at Ryan Kelly, who shrugged. I think they really don't understand why we won't surrender. Bobby, open a channel, Jake ordered. This is Captain Morrison. We don't surrender our friends to be murdered by machines. That's not how humans work. Define friends. Your species and the Zephyrians have no genetic relationship, no shared evolutionary history, no logical basis for alliance. Jake felt anger rising in his chest. These machines thought everything could be reduced to mathematics and logic. Friends are people we choose to protect, even when it costs us everything. You wouldn't understand. Incorrect. We will understand after we process your neural structures for analysis. Compliance will begin now. The transmission ended. On the main display, the Harvester fleet began moving toward the inner system, their ships maintaining perfect spacing and formation. All ships? This is Morrison, Jake announced to the combined fleet. They're coming in. Remember the plan. Hit and run. Make them chase us, and whatever happens, protect the evacuation ships. The next few hours felt like the longest of Jake's life. The Harvester fleet moved methodically through the outer system, their smaller ships spreading out to begin the systematic destruction of anything useful. They targeted mining stations, communication arrays, and orbital platforms with ruthless efficiency. They're not just destroying things, Dr. Chen observed, watching the enemy's progress. They're converting everything into raw materials. Look at that. On the screen, they watched Harvester machines attach themselves to a destroyed space station. Within minutes, the wreckage was being broken down and absorbed, becoming part of the enemy fleet. They're growing stronger as they destroy things, Ryan Kelly said grimly. Every piece of debris becomes new ships or weapons. Jake realized this was worse than he had thought. The Harvesters weren't just conquerors. They were a self-replicating force that became more dangerous with every victory. "Sir, we're getting reports from the evacuation ships," Nina Foster announced. "The last civilian transports are leaving the outer planets now." "How many people?" "About 40 million. It's not everyone, but it's all we could manage with the ships we have." Jake felt the weight of those numbers. 40 million saved, but that still left hundreds of millions on the planets that couldn't be evacuated in time. Kethvara's voice came through the communication system from Kepler Station. "Captain Morrison, the Harvesters have reached Outer Garden World. They are beginning surface operations." Jake switched to a long-range sensor view and watched in horror as the Harvesters deployed to the planet's surface. Thousands of small machines spread across the continents like a metallic infection, converting forests, cities, and mountains into uniform gray material. "How long before they strip the entire planet?" he asked. "Based on their current rate of consumption, approximately 18 hours, Dr. Chen replied quietly. 18 hours to reduce an entire world to raw materials. Jake had known the Harvesters were dangerous, but seeing their efficiency firsthand was terrifying. "Captain, I'm detecting something new," Bobby Turner said, studying his sensor readings. "The Harvesters are building something in orbit around the planet they're consuming." The image that appeared on screen made Jake's blood freeze. The enemy was constructing a massive ring-shaped structure around the dying world, using the planet's own converted matter as building materials. "What is that thing?" Amy asked. Dr. Chen ran rapid calculations on his tablet. "If I'm reading this correctly, it's some kind of consciousness transfer device. They're building a machine to forcibly extract and analyze mental patterns." "From who?" "From us. They want to upload human minds to understand how we think." The implications hit Jake like a physical blow. The Harvesters weren't just planning to kill humanity. They wanted to dissect human consciousness itself to solve the puzzle of why humans made illogical choices. "All ships. This is Morrison," he announced to the fleet. "New intelligence. The enemy is building a machine to capture and analyze human minds. We cannot allow that device to be completed." "Captain," Ryan Kelly said quietly, "our original plan was to evacuate as many Zephyrians as possible and try to escape. But if we let that machine be finished, they'll understand how humans think," Jake completed the thought. "And then they'll be able to predict us, counter us, defeat us easily." Jake looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. These people had followed him across the galaxy to help strangers. Now they might have to sacrifice themselves to prevent humanity's greatest secrets from falling into enemy hands. "Sir, incoming priority transmission," Bobby announced. "It's from Earth Command." Jake's heart leaped. Maybe reinforcements were coming. Maybe Earth had sent a battle fleet to help. Admiral Helen Curtis appeared on the main screen, her face showing the strain of recent events. "Captain Morrison, we've received your reports about first contact and the Harvester threat. I wish I had better news." Jake waited, hoping. "All available Earth Navy ships have been dispatched to your location, but it will take them at least 3 weeks to reach you. You're on your own until then, 3 weeks. Jake looked at the display showing Harvester machines consuming an entire planet in less than a day. In 3 weeks, the entire Zephyrian Confederation would be gone, and the consciousness transfer device would be operational. "Captain Morrison," Admiral Curtis continued, "I'm authorizing you to take any action necessary to prevent enemy acquisition of human behavioral data. That authorization includes use of your ship's self-destruct system, if capture appears imminent." The transmission ended. Jake's bridge was completely silent. "Sir?" Nina Foster said carefully. "Did she just order us to destroy ourselves rather than be captured?" "That's exactly what she ordered." Amy Rodriguez looked pale. "Jake, there are 97 people on this ship. Are we really going to—" "I don't know," Jake said honestly. "Let's see what options we have first." Over the next several hours, the situation continued to worsen. The Harvester fleet completed its consumption of the first planet and moved on to the second. The consciousness transfer device grew larger and more complex, its alien geometry suggesting technologies beyond human understanding. "Captain, the Zephyrian fleet commanders are requesting a meeting." Kethvara's voice came through the communication system. "Patch them through." The main screen filled with images of Zephyrian ship captains, their crystal skin showing various shades of determination and fear. "Captain Morrison," one of them said, "we have been discussing our situation. We believe it is time to attack." Jake was surprised. "Attack?" The plan was to hit and run, avoid direct confrontation. The plan has changed, another Zephyrian captain replied. We cannot allow our worlds to be consumed while we run and hide. Better to die fighting than to die as cowards. Keth Vera's image appeared on the screen. Captain Morrison, my people have learned something from humanity. Sometimes the logical choice is not the right choice. Sometimes you must fight impossible battles because the alternative is unacceptable. Jake felt a surge of pride mixed with sadness. The Zephyrians had learned human courage, but they were about to pay the human price for it. Ambassador, if we attack now, most of us will die. Yes, but some of us might survive. And the consciousness transfer device might be destroyed. That is a worthy trade. Jake looked around his bridge one more time. His crew was watching him, waiting for his decision. Behind him, 38 Zephyrian ships waited for his order. All of them were ready to die for a cause they believed in. All ships, this is Morrison, he said finally. We're going to attack the Harvester fleet directly. Our primary target is the consciousness transfer device. Secondary targets are the enemy command ships. He paused, thinking of Admiral Curtis's final orders. I won't lie to you. We probably won't survive this battle. But if we can destroy that machine and take out enough of their fleet, we might give the reinforcements from Earth a fighting chance when they arrive. The responses came back from 39 ships. Humans and Zephyrians united in their willingness to make the ultimate sacrifice. All ships, prepare for attack formation. Today, we show these machines what happens when you threaten the people we've sworn to protect. As the combined fleet began its final approach toward the Harvester Armada, Jake thought about his grandfather's words about good people having a duty to help others. Today, that duty was going to cost them. The first salvo from the Terra Nova struck the nearest Harvester dreadnought like a hammer blow from hell itself. Jake watched as the enemy ship's shields flared and partially collapsed, but the massive vessel kept coming, its weapons already tracking toward his ship. All ships scatter formation, Ryan Kelly shouted into the communication system. Don't give them concentrated targets. The combined human Zephyrian fleet spread out across space like seeds blown by a cosmic wind. Each ship took a different attack vector, forcing the Harvesters to divide their fire among dozens of targets instead of focusing on a few. Captain, the Terra Nova is receiving multiple targeting locks, Nina Foster reported as her console flashed with warning lights. Evasive maneuvers, Jake ordered. Linda, give me everything the engines have. The Terra Nova twisted through space, dodging plasma beams and missile salvos with movements that should have been impossible for a ship its size. But human spacecraft were designed by engineers who grew up on a world where staying alive meant being faster and more agile than the things trying to kill you. Direct hit on Zephyrian vessel flower of peace, Bobby Turner announced. She's venting atmosphere but still fighting. Jake switched his display to show the battle from a tactical overview. The sight made his heart race with both pride and terror. Human ships were diving and weaving through the Harvester formation like angry wasps, their weapons firing continuously. Zephyrian vessels, their organic hulls pulsing with bioluminescent weapon systems, fought with a desperate courage that their peaceful species had never shown before. But the Harvesters were fighting back with mechanical precision. Their larger ships formed defensive clusters while their smaller vessels moved to surround the attacking fleet. Jake, we're getting a transmission, Amy Rodriguez called out. It's not from the Harvesters. Put it through. The voice that came through their speakers was human. Speaking with an accent Jake recognized as coming from the outer colonies. This is Captain Tony Garcia of the merchant vessel Big Sky. We received your distress call and we're here to help. Jake's heart leaped as new ships appeared on his sensors. 3 vessels, none of them military but all flying human identification codes. Captain Garcia, this is Morrison. You're flying into a war zone. We can't guarantee your safety. Morrison, we heard your message about not abandoning friends. Well, you're our friends too, and we don't abandon family. More ships kept appearing. The survey vessel Deep Horizon under Commander Lisa Park. The mining ship Iron Mountain with Captain Steve Carter. A medical transport called Mercy's Hand commanded by Dr. Rachel Stone. How many ships? Jake asked Bobby. 15 and counting, sir. Civilian vessels, cargo haulers, research ships. None of them are armed for military combat. But as Jake watched, the civilian ships began to prove that human ingenuity could turn anything into a weapon. The mining ship Iron Mountain used its asteroid-breaking equipment to punch holes through Harvester armor. The medical transport Mercy's hand deployed its surgical lasers as precision cutting tools, slicing through enemy communication arrays. All civilian vessels, this is Morrison, Jake announced. Welcome to the party. Be advised, we're trying to destroy that ring structure around the second planet. It's some kind of consciousness transfer device. Copy that, Morrison, Captain Garcia replied. Big Sky is carrying a full load of industrial explosives. If you can get me close to that ring, I'll blow a hole in it big enough to fly a dreadnought through. The battle was changing. What had started as a desperate last stand was becoming something else entirely. More human ships continued to arrive, each one adding to the chaos and confusion that was disrupting the Harvester's perfect formations. Dr. Chen worked frantically at his station, monitoring the virus program he had uploaded to a probe. Captain, I'm reading massive communication disruptions in the Harvester network. The virus is working, but they're adapting to it. How long before they counter it completely? Maybe 20 minutes. After that, they'll be back to full coordination. Jake realized they had a narrow window of opportunity. All ships focus fire on the consciousness transfer device. We have to destroy it while their communications are disrupted. The combined fleet converged on the massive ring structure orbiting the half-consumed planet. Up close, it was even more terrifying than it had appeared on sensors. The ring was kilometers in diameter, covered with crystalline arrays and mechanical devices that pulsed with alien energy. I'm detecting massive power buildups, Dr. Chen reported. I think they're trying to activate it early. Zephyrian vessel Garden Song is making an attack run on the ring's primary power coupling, Ryan Kelly announced. She's taking heavy fire. Jake watched as the Zephyrian ship, its organic hull already damaged from previous combat, drove straight toward the alien construct. Harvester defensive weapons tore chunks from its living armor, but the ship kept coming. This is Captain Velthara of the Garden Song, came a musical voice through the communication system. For the Confederation and our human friends. The Garden Song struck the power coupling and exploded in a burst of biological fire that spread across the ring's surface like a living flame. The alien device flickered and went dark for several seconds before emergency power brought it back online. The ring is damaged but still functional, Dr. Chen reported. We need more ships to finish it. Big Sky moving in, Captain Garcia announced. All ships clear the blast radius. This is going to be big. The cargo hauler accelerated toward the damaged section of the ring, its hull scarred by Harvester weapons but still intact. Jake held his breath as the ship approached the alien structure. The explosion, when it came, was visible across half the solar system. The Big Sky's industrial explosives tore a massive gap in the consciousness transfer device, sending debris spinning into the planet's gravity well. Big Sky. Report, Jake called urgently. We're still here. Morrison, came Garcia's voice, strained but alive. Barely. That thing is tougher than it looks. The ring structure is critically damaged, Dr. Chen announced, but it's still trying to rebuild itself. Those machines are using matter from the planet below to repair the damage. Jake realized they needed to destroy the entire structure before it could regenerate. All ships concentrate fire on the remaining sections of the ring. Don't let it repair itself. The battle reached a crescendo as human and Zephyrian ships poured everything they had into the alien construct. Plasma cannons, missile launchers, mining lasers, and even improvised weapons made from agricultural equipment all focused on a single target. But the Harvesters were fighting back with increasing desperation. Their main fleet was converging on the ring's location, trying to protect their damaged device while their own weapons sought to destroy the attacking ships. Multiple ships down, Nina Foster reported. We've lost the Deep Horizon and 2 Zephyrian vessels. Iron Mountain is severely damaged. Jake felt each loss like a physical blow, but he couldn't let grief slow him down. All remaining ships' final attack run. We end this now. The Terra Nova led the charge, diving toward the ring structure through a storm of enemy fire. Around him, the survivors of the combined fleet followed, their weapons blazing as they closed the distance to their target. Linda, can you give me ramming speed? Jake asked his chief engineer. Sir, if we hit that thing at full acceleration, the Terra Nova will be destroyed. I know. Do it anyway. Jake, no. Amy Rodriguez grabbed his arm. There has to be another way. Amy, that device cannot be allowed to function. If the Harvesters learn how human minds work, they'll be able to predict and counter everything we do. Humanity will lose the only advantage we have. Dr. Chen looked up from his station. Captain, wait. I'm detecting something new. The virus I uploaded isn't just disrupting their communications anymore. It's actually causing physical damage to their systems. On the main display, several harvester ships were flickering and going dark as their internal systems crashed. The mechanical precision of their formations was breaking down as individual ships lost contact with the collective consciousness. "My God," Dr. Chen whispered. "The virus is spreading through their entire network. It's like a disease that attacks their shared mind." Jake watched in amazement as more harvester ships began to malfunction. Some fired on their own allies, confused by the disrupted communication signals. Others simply shut down completely. Their artificial intelligence is unable to function without constant network support. "All ships, the enemy is in disarray," he announced to the fleet. "Press the attack while they're confused." The remaining human and Zephyrian vessels struck with renewed fury, targeting the disabled harvester ships and the damaged ring structure. Without coordinated defense, the alien construct finally succumbed to the sustained assault. The consciousness transfer device collapsed in on itself, its exotic materials creating a brief artificial star before fading into scattered debris. "Ring structure destroyed," Ryan Kelly reported. "Enemy fleet is in full retreat." Jake slumped in his command chair, exhausted by the intensity of the battle. Around him, his bridge crew looked equally drained but victorious. "Captain Morrison," came Keth Vara's voice through the communication system, "the harvesters are withdrawing from our system. You have saved our worlds." But Jake wasn't ready to celebrate yet. "Dr. Chen, what's the status of the virus? Are the harvesters going to recover from it?" "I don't think so." 3 days after the Great Battle, Jake stood in the medical bay of Kepler Station visiting the wounded. The casualties had been heavy on both sides, but the humans and Zephyrians who survived were already talking about rebuilding and preparing for whatever came. Next, Captain Morrison called Dr. Martha Stone as she finished treating a Zephyrian engineer whose crystal skin had been cracked by debris. "I wanted to thank you for allowing civilian ships to join the battle. My medical transport wasn't designed for combat, but we saved a lot of lives during the fighting." Jake shook his head. "Doctor, you all chose to come here. I should be thanking you." "We heard your message about not abandoning friends," she replied with a smile. "After that, how could we stay away?" As Jake continued his rounds, he was amazed by the spirit of cooperation he saw everywhere. Human doctors worked alongside Zephyrian healers, sharing techniques and learning from each other. Engineers from both species collaborated on repairs, combining human durability with alien biotechnology. "Captain, you need to see this," Amy Rodriguez called from the station's communication center. "We're receiving messages from all over human space." Jake followed her to a room filled with displays showing incoming transmissions. The screens were full of human faces, ship captains, and colony leaders from across the galaxy. "This is Admiral Kevin Brooks aboard the Earth Navy ship Defiant," said one message. "We've been monitoring your situation and we're en route with a full battle group. ETA is 10 days. Another message came from the mining colony at Kepler Station. "This is Governor Lisa Martinez. We're sending every armed ship we have to assist in system defense. Nobody threatens our allies," message after message poured in. Research vessels, cargo haulers, passenger liners, and even private yachts were volunteering for military service. Jake realized that word of the battle had spread throughout human space and the response was overwhelming. "How many ships are coming?" he asked Amy. "Latest count is over 200 vessels," she replied, her voice filled with wonder. "Not all of them are military, but they're all coming to help." Dr. Chen appeared at Jake's shoulder, carrying a tablet full of data. "Captain, I've been analyzing the wreckage from the harvester fleet. I found something interesting." "What is it?" "Remember how I said the virus infected their collective consciousness? Well, it turns out the effect is permanent. Any harvester ship that tries to rejoin their network will crash immediately." Jake felt excitement building. "Are you saying we broke their entire civilization?" "Not just their civilization, their entire species. The harvesters were essentially one giant artificial intelligence spread across thousands of ships. Without their network, they're just individual machines with no shared knowledge or coordination." This was bigger than Jake had imagined. They hadn't just won a battle or saved the Zephyrian Confederation. They had destroyed a threat that had terrorized the galaxy for millennia. "Dr. Chen, can other species use this virus?" "I've been thinking about that. The virus is specifically designed to attack the harvester's type of networked consciousness. It wouldn't work on other species. but it could be modified to fight similar artificial intelligence collectives. Jake realized they were holding the key to defending the entire galaxy against mechanical threats. But first they had to make sure the immediate danger was over. "Ryan, what's the status of our defensive preparations?" The tactical officer looked up from his planning table where he was working with Zephyrian military advisors. "We've established a perimeter around the system with early warning stations. If any more harvesters show up, we'll know about them hours before they arrive." "What about the Zephyrian worlds that were damaged?" Kethvara approached, his crystal skin showing hopeful green patterns. "Captain Morrison, our biotechnology is already beginning to restore the damaged planets. It will take years to fully heal the worlds the harvesters attacked, but life will return." Jake felt a sense of satisfaction he had never experienced before. Not only had they saved lives, but they were helping to restore entire worlds to their former beauty. Over the next week, human ships continued to arrive in the Zephyrian system. Each new arrival brought fresh supplies, reinforcements, and expertise. The ragtag fleet that had fought the desperate battle was being replaced by a professional military force. Admiral Brooks arrived aboard the Defiant with a full Earth Navy battle group. Jake was surprised to find himself nervous about meeting a superior officer after so many weeks of independent command. "Captain Morrison," Admiral Brooks said as they met in Kepler Station's main conference room. "I've read your reports about the battle. Impressive work, but I have to ask, what were you thinking when you decided to engage a superior enemy force in direct combat?" Jake chose his words carefully. "Sir, the harvesters were building a device to analyze human consciousness. Allowing them to complete it would have compromised the security of our entire species. And you made this decision without consulting Earth Command?" "Yes, sir. Communication delays made it impossible to request authorization." Admiral Brooks was quiet for a moment, studying Jake's face. Then he smiled. "Captain, you probably saved humanity from a threat we didn't even know existed. As of this moment, you're promoted to Admiral and placed in command of the new Galactic Defense Force." Jake was stunned. "Sir, I don't understand." "Morrison, you've proven that humans can work effectively with alien species and defeat threats that endanger multiple civilizations. Earth Command wants to formalize this relationship." Amy Rodriguez leaned forward. "Admiral Brooks, what exactly is the Galactic Defense Force?" "It's a new joint military organization designed to protect peaceful species from existential threats. Admiral Morrison will command a mixed fleet of human and alien vessels, with authority to respond to distress calls anywhere in the galaxy." Jake felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. "Sir, are you sure I'm the right person for this job?" "Morrison, you took a survey ship and 97 crew members and saved an entire civilization. You convinced civilian volunteers to join a military action. You destroyed an enemy that had been terrorizing the galaxy for thousands of years. I can't think of anyone more qualified." Over the following days, Jake worked with Admiral Brooks and Kethvara to establish the new defense force. Human military doctrine would provide the tactical foundation, while Zephyrian biotechnology would supply advanced weapons and support systems. "We'll start small," Jake explained to his senior staff. "One battle group consisting of 20 ships, half human and half Zephyrian. As we prove the concept works, we can expand to include other species." Dr. Chen had been working with teams from both species to develop new technologies. "Admiral, I think you should see what we've created." He led them to a construction bay where a new type of ship was taking shape. It looked like nothing either species had built before. The sleek lines of human engineering combined with the organic curves of Zephyrian biotechnology. "We're calling it the Unity class," Dr. Chen explained. "It has human weapons and propulsion systems integrated with living Zephyrian armor that can repair itself. The crew areas are designed for mixed human and alien crews." Jake was impressed. The ship represented everything they had learned about cooperation between species. "When will the first one be ready?" 3 months for the prototype. If the design works, we can have a full squadron within a year." As Jake looked at the new ship taking shape, he realized how much had changed since the Terra Nova first received that desperate plea for help. They had gone from being explorers to being warriors to being something entirely new. Protectors of the innocent on a galactic scale. "Admiral Morrison," Kethvara said, approaching with several other Zephyrian leaders. "We have received communications from other species in this region of the galaxy. Word of your victory over the harvesters has spread. What kind of communications? Requests for protection, offers of alliance, and warnings about other threats we should know about. It seems the galaxy is full of peaceful species who have been hoping for someone to stand up to the various forces that prey on them. Jake realized that destroying the harvesters had been just the beginning. There were other threats out there, other bullies who thought they could destroy innocent people without consequence. Keth Vara, please tell these other species that the Galactic Defense Force will be operational within 6 months. Anyone who threatens peaceful civilizations will have to deal with us. The ambassador's crystal skin brightened to pure white. I will convey your message, Admiral. I believe many species will sleep better, knowing that the Deathworld warriors are watching over them. As Jake watched construction crews from both species working together on the new ships, he thought about the message that had started it all. The Zephyrians had cried out to the stars for mercy, hoping someone, anyone, would answer their plea. They had received something better than mercy. They had found friends willing to fight and die for them, and in saving the Zephyrians, humanity had discovered its true purpose in the galaxy, not as conquerors, but as guardians of those who couldn't protect themselves. The universe was vast and dangerous, full of threats that peaceful species couldn't handle alone. But now they weren't alone. The Deathworld species that had learned. Now we are no longer just Zephyrians asking the stars for mercy. We are part of something greater, beings who answer when others cry out for help. As they entered the education center where human and alien children were working on their art project together, Jake realized that this was the real Victi. 6 months later, Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of Unity Station, watching the morning light of the Zephyrian sun illuminate the most beautiful sight he had ever seen. The space station, built from the combined technologies of 12 different species, floated like a crystal flower in orbit around the restored Zephyrian homeworld. The morning briefing is ready, Admiral, said Commander Amy Rodriguez, approaching with a tablet full of reports. Her new rank suited her, Jake thought. She had earned it during the long months of building the Galactic Defense Force. What's on the schedule today? Jake asked, still looking out at the stars. 3 new species requesting membership in the Defense Alliance, a diplomatic meeting with the Andromedan Trade Council, and the commissioning ceremony for the 5th Unity-class ship. Jake nodded and followed Amy toward the command center. The corridors of Unity Station were alive with activity. Humans, Zephyrians, and representatives from 10 other species working together on projects that would have been impossible for any single civilization to accomplish. They passed a group of children playing in one of the station's garden areas. Jake smiled as he watched human kids chase Zephyrian younglings through flowering trees that had been genetically modified to survive in space. The children spoke a mixture of languages, switching between English, Zephyrian harmonics, and the clicking sounds of the insectoid Kektar species. Admiral Morrison called Dr. Peter Chen from his research laboratory. Do you have a moment? I want to show you something incredible. Jake followed the scientist into a room filled with displays showing star charts and data streams from across the galaxy. Dr. Chen had become the Defense Force's chief technology officer, coordinating research between dozens of species. What am I looking at, Peter? This is a map of all known harvester activity over the past 1,000 years, Dr. Chen explained, highlighting systems across the galactic arm. And this shows the status of those areas now. Jake studied the display. They're all green. Does that mean every single harvester collective in this part of the galaxy has been neutralized? The virus we created didn't just stop the fleet that attacked the Zephyrians. It spread through their entire communication network. Any time a surviving harvester ship tries to reconnect with others of its kind, the virus activates and crashes their systems. Jake felt a wave of satisfaction. The threat that had terrorized dozens of species for millennia was finally gone. But there's more, Dr. Chen continued, bringing up a new display. We've been sharing the virus technology with other species, modified for their specific needs. The Triangulum Confederation used it to stop a machine uprising in their territory. The Outer Rim colonies adapted it to shut down rogue mining robots. So we didn't just defeat one enemy, Jake realized. We created a defensive tool that can protect everyone. Exactly. And that's not the only breakthrough. The biotechnology sharing program with the Zephyrians has produced amazing results. Dr. Chen led Jake to another section of the lab where living plants grew in strange, geometric patterns. These are Zephyrian human hybrid crops that can grow in almost any environment. We're distributing them to species that have food shortage problems. Jake was amazed. How many worlds are we helping now? 47 different species across 3 galactic arms. Food distribution, medical supplies, defensive technology, disaster relief. The Defense Force has become more than just a military organization. As they continued through the station, Jake visited other departments and saw the scope of what they had built together. The engineering section where human durability was combined with alien precision. The medical bay where doctors from a dozen species shared techniques for treating injuries and diseases. The tactical center where military experts planned defensive strategies for worlds they had never visited. Admiral, called Colonel Ryan Kelly from the tactical center. We just received a priority transmission from the outer spiral. The Vegan Commonwealth is under attack by something called the Iron Tide. Jake hurried to the communication array where Ambassador Kethvara was already translating the alien message. They describe mechanical entities that consume starships and space stations, Kethvara reported, his crystal skin showing concerned yellow patterns. It sounds similar to the harvesters, but different in some ways. How different? Jake asked. These machines don't seem to have a collective consciousness. They operate independently like a swarm of metallic insects. Jake realized this was exactly the kind of threat the Defense Force had been created to handle. Ryan, what forces do we have available? The 3rd Defense Fleet is on patrol near that sector. 12 ships, mixed human and allied crews. Admiral Lisa Park is in command. Contact Admiral Park and authorize her to respond to the Vegan distress call. Full defensive protocols. Yes, sir. As the orders went out, Jake felt the familiar weight of command responsibility, but also the satisfaction of knowing they could actually help. 6 months ago, the Terra Nova had been alone when it answered the Zephyrian plea for help. Now the Defense Force could respond to threats anywhere in the galaxy within days. Admiral Morrison, said Bobby Turner from his communication station. Incoming transmission from Earth Command. It's Admiral Brooks. The familiar face of Jake's superior officer appeared on the main screen. Admiral Morrison, I have news from the Joint Earth Alliance Council meeting. What's the word, sir? The Council has approved the expansion of the Galactic Defense Force. You're authorized to recruit up to 50 additional species and establish defense stations in 12 more sectors. Jake was stunned. Sir, that's a massive expansion. Morrison, in 6 months you've eliminated a galactic threat, established peaceful relations with 23 new species, and prevented 4 separate wars through diplomatic intervention. The Council wants to give you the resources to do more. Admiral Brooks continued. There's something else. The Defense Force is being granted autonomous authority to respond to existential threats without waiting for political approval. You'll report to the Council, but operational decisions are yours alone. Jake realized what this meant. The Defense Force was being transformed from an experimental program into the galaxy's official peacekeeping organization. Admiral Brooks, I'm honored by the Council's confidence, but I want to make something clear. The Defense Force isn't a human organization that includes aliens. It's truly a joint effort where every species contributes equally. I understand, Morrison. That's exactly why it's working so well. After the transmission ended, Jake found himself alone on the observation deck again, looking out at the stars and thinking about how much had changed. Impressive view, isn't it? Said a familiar voice behind him. Jake turned to see Linda Barnes, now Chief Engineering Officer for the entire Defense Force. Linda, I didn't hear you come in. I was thinking about the Terra Nova, she said, joining him at the window. Remember how small and alone we felt when we first received that Zephyrian distress call? I remember. 97 people and 1 ship, heading into the unknown. Now look what we've built. Linda gestured toward the bustling station around them. Thousands of people from dozens of species all working together to protect the innocent. Jake nodded. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if we hadn't answered that call. The Zephyrians would have died, Linda said simply. The harvesters would have continued consuming worlds, and humanity would still think we were alone in the universe. Instead, we found our purpose. More than that, we found our family. As if to prove her point, Kethvara approached them, his crystal skin showing the warm gold patterns that Jake had learned meant deep contentment. Admiral Morrison, the evening shift reports are ready for your review. Also, the children in the education center have prepared a presentation about their joint art project. Jake smiled. Tell them I'll be there in an hour. I wouldn't miss it. As they walked back toward the station's central areas, Jake reflected on the journey that had brought them here. It had started with a desperate plea for help from strangers. It had continued through battle, sacrifice, and the discovery that different species could accomplish amazing things when they worked together. Kethvara, can I ask you something? Of course, Admiral. Do you ever regret sending that distress call? Your people have had to learn about war, violence, and all the dark things that come with defending yourselves. The Zephyrian ambassador was quiet for a moment, his skin cycling through thoughtful purple patterns. Admiral Morrison, before the harvesters came, we thought peace meant never having to fight for anything. We were wrong. How so? Real peace doesn't come from avoiding conflict. It comes from being strong enough to protect what matters and wise enough to know when fighting is necessary. Kethvara gestured toward the bustling activity around them. We learned this from humanity. You taught us that sometimes the most peaceful thing you can do is stand up to bullies and protect those who cannot protect themselves. Jake felt a surge of pride, not just in humanity but in all the species that had chosen to stand together against the darkness. And now? He asked.